This is Unit 5, Level 2, Classifying Quadrilaterals. In order to start to classify quadrilaterals, we first have to understand what is a quadrilateral. A quadrilateral is any four-sided shape. Any four-sided shape. So all of these shapes to the side that you see their names, parallelogram, rectangle, rhombus, square, trapezoid, those are all quadrilaterals because they all have four sides. So now I need to look at some other characteristics, and there's a few that we look at. We look at how many sides they have equal or congruent. We look at whether or not they have parallel lines, and if they do, how many sets of parallel lines. And then we look at how many right angles they have. So we're going to start with a parallelogram, and we're going to determine what makes a parallelogram a parallelogram. So the first thing we look at, and obviously the name gives it away, parallel. We look to see how many sides are parallel. Now, parallel simply means that if you continued that line out, and you continued the line opposite out, that they would never touch. They're going to keep equal distance between each other. That makes them parallel. So this line is parallel to this line. They're also congruent. They're also equal sides. Now let's look at the other side. Is this parallel to this? And the answer is yes, it is. So this has two sets. Any parallelogram is going to have two sets of parallel lines. We'll also notice that opposite sides are equal. And this will be in your notes as well. My handwriting's a little hard to read. And that's pretty much all it takes to make up a parallelogram. It has to have two sets of parallel lines, and it has to have opposite sides equal. So now let's look at the next shape. The next shape I have here is a rectangle. In order for it to be a rectangle, let's first check its parallel sides. Is this side parallel to this side? Is it keeping equal distance apart? Yes. And is this side parallel to this side? Yes. So a rectangle also has two sets of parallel sides. And guess what? It also has opposite sides equal. Those sets of lines that are parallel are also equal. So already I can tell that by definition, this rectangle already fits the definition of a parallelogram. This is what we'll get into level 3, where we start to talk about that hierarchy of shapes. Yes, a rectangle is always a parallelogram, but not every parallelogram is going to be a rectangle, because in order for it to be classified as a rectangle, it has to have these four little things that we have in the corner. And by the boxes, you guessed it, it has to have four right angles. So by definition, every rectangle is going to be a parallelogram, but not every parallelogram is going to be a rectangle because it may not have those four right angles. But if it has those four right angles, then it has to be classified as a rectangle. Let's go ahead and look at the rhombus. A rhombus, our next shape, you guessed it, we're going to check parallel. Is that side parallel to this side? Yes. That's one set. Let's check this one. Is that side parallel to that side? Yes. So again, it has to have two sets of parallel sides. Now let's check if opposite sides are equal. Is this side equal to this side? Yes. Is this side equal to this side? Yes. So yes, opposite sides are equal. So guess what? It is a parallelogram. In order for it to be considered a rhombus, you'll notice by the markings that not only are opposite sides equal, but all four sides are equal. So again, a rhombus is always a parallelogram because it has two sets of parallel lines and opposite sides are equal, but not every parallelogram is going to be a rhombus because all four sides have to be equal in order to be classified as a rhombus. Let's check a rectangle. Is a rhombus a rectangle? Well, it does have the two sets of parallel sides. It does have opposite sides equal. But guess what? In a rectangle, you're not always going to have the four sides that are equal. And does it have, so it doesn't have all four sides equal, it can't be a rhombus. Let's go ahead and look at the square next. The first thing we're going to check is whether or not opposite sides are parallel. Yes. And opposite sides are equal. Yes. So to be a square, it has to have two sets of parallel sides. It has to have opposite sides equal. So guess what? It's a parallelogram. It also has to have four right angles in a square. So guess what? A square is a rectangle because it fits the definition. But in order to be a square, it has to have all four sides equal. So now my question, is a square a rhombus? We already know it's a parallelogram and a rectangle, so let's look at the definition of a rhombus and see if a square will match it. Does a square have two sets of parallel sides? Yep. Does it have opposite sides equal? Yep. Does it have all four sides equal? Yep. So guess what? Every square is a rhombus. But not every rhombus is a square because not every rhombus has to have four right angles. So we're starting to build that hierarchy. I know it might be a little bit confusing at first, but you can always go back to the definition or what makes a rectangle, what makes a square, in order to figure out the hierarchy. So these notes are very important. Now on this next shape called a trapezoid, let's go ahead and first look at two sets of parallel sides. Does it have it? Well, let's check. Is this side parallel to this side? Yes. Is this side parallel to this side? If I kept going, would it stay equal distance apart? Nope. So a trapezoid has at least one pair of parallel sides. And that's it. There's no other classification that'll make it a trapezoid. If it has at least one pair of parallel sides, it's going to be a trapezoid. So when we look at parallelograms have two sets of parallel sides. Does it have at least one pair? Yeah, because it has two pairs. So every parallelogram is going to be a trapezoid. So we'll start to look at that when we look at our hierarchy. But right now we're just looking at four-sided shapes. Again, a quadrilateral has to be a four-sided shape. And we start to classify it based on its definitions. In Unit 5, Level 3, we'll start to classify those a little bit further. This is Unit 5, Level 2, Classifying Quadrilaterals.